Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It is Hart, and today I will be doing the Thursday night football slate breakdown between the Browns and the Steelers. I'll be going position by position, player by player, breaking them all down, talking about who's we should look to play, who we should kind of fade, all that good stuff. Make sure to follow me on Twitter as well, Hart DFS. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. On my Twitter, you'll find a bunch of fantasy football relevant stats, helping out with fantasy football as well as DFS. So a lot of good stuff. Once again, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell. And let's get into the breakdown. So first off, in the showdown slates, 6 out of the 7 slates have been the opposite of kind of what we expected. The only one I'd say that we expected was the Bills versus Titans. Ended up being a blowout. I think that's what everyone kind of expected. You know, Vegas had a 10-point spread. It ended up being, I think they won like 41-7, something like that. But the rest of them, the past 6 out of 7, it kind of goes the opposite way of what we expect. So like for this game, I know it's under, I think it's like a 39 game point total, 3.5 favored to the Browns. So very slow game, very low game total. Shouldn't be high scoring at all. I mean, you could play it where you think this game is going to be kind of the opposite. I wouldn't say high scoring, but you know, maybe a few more points to each team if you want to attack it that way. Because I feel like every primetime game that we get on like the Monday nights, Sunday nights, Thursday nights, they end up being just the exact opposite of what everyone expects. So you can take that into consideration. But for this, you know, the slate breakdown, I'd say first off, I think we want to do the double stacks. It was optimal in the Sunday night or in the Sunday Millionaire Maker if you had Tua, Waddle, and Tyreek Hill, and then you ran it back with either Bateman or more likely Mark Andrews on the other side. You were off to a great start. You would have easily cashed pretty much no matter who you put in the other slots. But that's where I want to start is the double stacks for this slate. So if you're going to, you know, say Mitch Trubisky is, you know, going to be an optimal quarterback for me, even though I don't think he is. There's like a 1% chance of that. But I think he's terrible. Anyways, if you're going to put Mitchell Trubisky in your captain, what do you want to do? You're going to want to at least put 2 pass catchers in the flex spot with him to have that double stack, because if Mitch Trubisky is going to be an optimal captain, that means he's having a great game. He's going to have a few touchdowns, maybe 1 rushing, a couple passing, and yeah, a good amount of yards. So with that, you could definitely put Najee Harris. You know, he is relevant in the passing game for them. 2 targets the first game, 6 the second game. So I mean, I think he's one of those where, you know, most likely in a normal situation, you wouldn't put a running back because it's kind of not optimal to put a running back with a quarterback. But Najee Harris is kind of an exception with how many passes he'll probably get in this game. So you could definitely throw him in there. But the player pool would be him, Deontay Johnson, Patty Frymouth, and Claypool, as well as the Steelers kicker, all over the place, Boswell. They are a lot more optimal with the quarterbacks than you would think. So that would definitely be the player pool. You know, 2 guys out of this group below Trubisky you would put with him. And then on the opposite side, people to run it back with. On the side, you could definitely do, you know, Chubb, Cooper, Peoples-Jones, Njoku, and Harrison Bryant if he plays. Those are the pools of players that you could run it back with in the flex spots. So you have Trubisky, 2 Steelers, and then you can run it back with a few of these guys. And then the opposite side, if you think Jacoby Brissett, who actually had, you know, a pretty solid game when it comes to the rating, you know, 22 of 27, 229 yards, which isn't a ton, you know, a TD interception, had 6 carries for 43 yards, but only had 16, you know, fantasy points. So there's not a lot of high scores on this fantasy slate, especially with that Vegas total. But if you're going to put Jacoby Brissett, who I do think is a slightly better quarterback compared to Mitch, you're going to want to put him there if you think he's going to be the optimal captain on this slate. He has a decent chance. But I don't think you could put Nick Chubb. He's not a pass catcher, even though he caught a few last week. Amari Cooper, I would put Kareem Hunt. He's one of those pass catching running backs who can get involved in the checkdowns and the offense that way. So I think he's like Najee Harris on the other side. Peoples-Jones, Njoku, Bryant, and then Cade York as well. And then for the bring back on the Steelers, you could look to Najee Harris, Deontay, Patty, Claypool, and I guess you could throw in George Pickens as well, even though he hasn't been too involved. And so that's kind of the way I would go if I was going to put a captain in, or a quarterback in my captain spot. Have do the double stack quarterback, 2 of his pass catchers, and then do a bring back with another person on the other team, and then kind of fill out the other 2 spots with how you kind of want to attack the slate and get different. But now for the player by player breakdown, we got Nick Chubb at the top. We'll do team by team for the players. Nick Chubb at the top, 12K, going to be very popular. Obviously was in a great spot against the Jets. Ran for 87 yards, 3 touchdowns, had 3 catches as well, which is a little out of his range. He is a capable pass catching back, but they don't involve him in the offense that way. They'd prefer to throw it to Kareem Hunt, which, it would be nice if Nick Chubb became a viable pass catching backfield option, but I guess the Browns just don't like that. Anyways, going to be very popular on the slate, obviously for good reason. He's going to see probably close to 20 plus touches in this situation, if not more, if he's having success against the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I know in the past 2 games he's played against them, I don't think he's hit his over on the rushing props. So there is definitely that to keep in mind. I mean, you could make the argument to fade him. If he's not going to, let's say he gets, 17 carries today for 87 yards, but only gets 1 touchdown or no touchdowns, there is a good chance that you could fade him and still either win or get into the cash a good amount. Amari Cooper, but I mean, I prefer to play Chubb. I don't want to take that risk, especially when he's a good amount of their offense. I'd say 90% of their offense is running it. They want to run it, close to 35 times between him and Hunt. So very hard to fade Chubb. You could do it, but I don't think I am. Amari Cooper, 6 targets the first game, didn't produce much. 10 targets this last game, caught 9 of them for 100 yards and a touchdown. So he's definitely viable in the captain spot. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett throwing him the ball is very scary because they're just a run first team. But if they get closer to the end zone, he could be one of those guys who catches the ball. Maybe he gets a deep ball touchdown. So I don't mind getting to him as a captain. I don't think he'll be super popular as a captain play, just because people are going to say, had a terrible first game, good game second game. Maybe you'll get some box score watchers who play him the captain, but I think he's a viable captain. Don't mind getting there at 9.4. Jacoby Brissett, 8.8. He has a little bit of rushing upside. Got 46 or 43 that last game. Had a pretty decent game for Jacoby Brissett. Maybe he could have had 1 more touchdown pass, but he only got 16 fantasy points. So I don't think I'm going to get there as a captain play for me, but as a flex play, he looks like an okay play. Kareem Hunt, probably going to be very popular, maybe even more popular than Nick Chubb, because I know he gets a ton of touches in the running game, and he's a way more fantasy relevant back when it comes to catching those passes, those check downs. So I do think a lot of people are going to lean towards these running backs on both sides in the captain spot. And I do think Kareem Hunt's going to come in first for that captain optimal play. I don't mind it. Obviously, he's going to be super cheap at 7,600. He has the touches to be able to get there to be the optimal captain. It just depends on if he kind of handcuffs Chubb with those touchdowns. So maybe if you want to go, I know Nick Chubb is about 3,000 more, actually 4,000, a little under 5,000 more than Chubb, or is 5,000 less than Chubb. So it is kind of tough to get to Chubb over Hunt for that captain spot unless the ownership is drastically different, which I don't think it is. Backup quarterbacks, don't have to worry about them. Peoples-Jones, so the first game he saw 11 targets, caught 6 of them, 60 yards, had a decent game, and then last game he kind of had a terrible game. 1 target, nothing else. So he kind of had him and Amari Cooper kind of switched spots. First game it was all Donovan Peoples-Jones. Amari Cooper really didn't do much. This past game against the Jets, Amari Cooper did everything. Peoples-Jones didn't do much. I do kind of expect it to kind of even out a tad. I do expect a few more passes to go to Peoples-Jones' way, especially if Harrison Bryant's out. 5,400. I don't think he's an optimal captain play for me. I think he's more of just like a flex play. Njoku, 5,200. should get involved. He got a little bit more involved last week, which is nice to see. He's one of those options. It always seems like in these primetime games that a random backup fullback or a random tight end catches a touchdown. So I would lean towards Njoku getting some action in the end zone. So 5,200, you could make the argument to put him in the optimal captain play. I don't know if there's enough touches and upside for that, but you can make the argument there. Harrison Bryant, 4,600. Same thing goes with him. If he plays, you could make the argument that you could throw him in the captain spot. I just don't think there's enough upside for them to be optimal. I mean, it'd get you different. It could allow you to get a good amount of flex players who are going to have those touches in the game. But I think with these two, you just throw them in the flex if you want to get to one of them. But we have to keep an eye on this Harrison Bryant news, because if he's out, it could elevate one of the practice squad tight ends into the lineup, because Cleveland does like running 2 tight end sets, as you guys can see here. Last week, let's go to tight ends. Njoku played 94% of the snaps, 63 out of 67. Harrison Bryant played 31 out of the 67, and when he was in, they were targeting him a good amount. So I don't mind getting there. Cade York, as I said, if you think Jacoby Brissett's going to have a good game and this offense is going to have a good game, or if you think it's going to be like the slow pace, heavy running, field goal game, you can definitely play the kickers. I think both of them are definitely in play. And then the defenses, the Browns D, it's going to be super, super popular. I know a lot of people put them in the captain spot. I'm going to avoid that, because I do think both of these defenses are going to project for at least close to 50% ownership and maybe 20% in the captain spot. I think that's one of those situations you avoid. You don't play that. It's not optimal at all. Even in a low scoring game like this, I just think I'm going to avoid it just because of the ownership. I don't think you have to chase there. Anthony Schwartz, the situation with the wide receivers is kind of bad. It really drops off after Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. As I said, they like to play, two tight end sets, have 2 running backs in there, Chubb and Hunt. So they don't really utilize their backup wide receivers at all, like the 3 and 4, like David Bell, Schwartz. They kind of mix in there. So you could definitely take a dart throw on them. But I don't think I'm going to do it. And that really does it for me. I mean, Felton kind of played some backup running back / slot receiver for them, but I just don't think I'm going to get to any of them. On the Pittsburgh side, Najee Harris, 9.8. Maybe we'll go a little bit under-owned just because of the past 2 games for him, but he's going to be relevant in the pass-catching backfield, as well as, getting the touches for running the ball. So pretty good optimal captain play there. Deontay Johnson, I think he's my favorite captain play. I don't like Mitch Trubisky as a quarterback, but he's been targeting him 12 times, 10 times. He hasn't had any red zone looks either, so maybe you get a red zone chance here. 12 fantasy points, 13. So with that production, really like to go to Deontay in my captain play. I mean, obviously, if you're going to play Deontay, you'd probably have to play Mitch as, the flex play. I don't know. I just don't like Mitch as a quarterback. 8,600 is a decent price for a quarterback. But yeah, it just depends. If you're going to go one of those Steelers pass catchers in optimal captain play in the spot, you're going to probably need Mitch in the flex. Patty Frymuth, my second favorite captain play on the slate. Once again, seen a ton of targets, 10 first game, 7 second game. I think he's had, let's see here. He had 1 red zone attempt last week, 1 the week before. So he's getting involved in the red zone. Claypool is, 2 the first week, 2 or 0 the second week. So they're kind of sprinkling it throughout for the Steelers team. Obviously, you see no Deontay Johnson, so maybe I'm going to bet on that, happening. But really like Pat Frymuth there. Claypool, he will get involved in the shorter red zone attempts, running the ball or either kind of just slants or fades. He's a big body wide receiver. He's getting targets 6 and 6 past 2 games, but hasn't been producing much. I'd prefer the other 2 guys to, other 3 guys compared to Claypool, but at that price, he's probably going to have a lower ownership, so you can definitely pivot off of a guy like, Frymuth, Deontay, or even Najee to get to Claypool. It'll be a little bit different from the field. Backup quarterbacks, not for me. George Pickens, I don't think he'll get much ownership. You know, he is 4,800, but he's the third man, technically fourth man on the totem pole for the Steelers. You know, 3 targets first game, 3 the second game, 1 catch for each. Hasn't done much at all. I mean, they're pretty much just looking Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, and Patty Fryer moves away. And then odd man out is Claypool. And then just the lowest guy on the totem pole is George Pickens. So you can definitely get there to get different from the field. I don't think I am. I just haven't seen enough opportunities for him to be able to get enough points. I mean, if you want to take him as a flex play, sure, but don't think you really need to do that. Steelers defense, 4,400. Once again, same thing with the Browns defense. Don't think I'm going to get there. They're going to be super high owned, super popular. And, you know, I think everyone's expecting this game to be slow paced, low scoring. If you're going to need a defensive touchdown for these teams to pay off and actually be worth it. Otherwise, I think you get different from the field and play someone else in the flex or the captain. Don't get to the defense because I'm not. Boswell, once again, I think these kickers are very viable in this game. They should have a decent amount of opportunities for at least a few field goals from both sides. Or in the backup running back, 3,200. Don't need to get there. You know, not enough touches for me. Zach Gentry, backup tight end. You can definitely take that dart throw shot that he gets a red zone look and a touchdown. Otherwise, he's not going to get much action. Snow Jr., the second/third running back with Warren. I'm not sure why this is not loading, but as it obviously hasn't seen any action at all. I don't think Gunner has either. And then, yeah, that really does it for the slates breakdown. So if you enjoyed it, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Forgot to go over my lineup from the Monday Millionaire Maker. I was sitting in the top 400 going into halftime for that first game. I did have Jalen Hurts, Watkins, and Goddard in, and then I switched it to be obviously Allen, Irv Smith, and Treylon Burks. So I would have scored, you know, a little bit more points, maybe 10 more if I had that, it was just super frustrating. Wanted to get different playing both star running backs. Obviously, Dalvin Cook was bad. Henry was terrible. He couldn't even run it. Really like that bounce back spot for Devontae. Told you guys Diggs was an absolute lock. Surprised he wasn't more owned than that. Faders got absolutely destroyed. Really like Treylon Burks as, you know, value play. Had a decent game there. Would have been even better if the game, you know, stayed close. Knox looked okay, and then Irv Smith had a good spot there. Dropped a huge touchdown, but really annoying. The Eagles defense did fine, only 18% owned, which is super interesting. And obviously the Bills defense was, what was it? 46. Got absolutely bailed out by those turnovers, defensive touchdown. Super annoying there. I was looking very solid to compete for first going into like the start of the second game, but obviously it didn't work that way. Oh well. But if you guys enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.